are tigers, and the tigers must lead the way. You know what I mean? You are the tigers, so you have to show the world how to be accessible, how to be fair, how to be safe for everyone. You said that together we are stronger. We need Bangladesh to have links with South America, for instance. We need to establish cooperation, international cooperation about this. Now, I know that I'm running out of time, so I'm just trying to say something. And I would say, what we need, apart from the political issue, we need the technical ones. So once we know that we can convince our leaders, that once we can have, for instance, you can be you are, how can I say it, an international leader too, in the sense that you are promoting, yeah, I want to say something about you. You're so humble. You're always just doing things, but not saying that you're doing. I know because we sometimes cooperate by email and so on. But you are ambassador not only of goodwill about autism. We need you as our ambassador about inclusive disaster risk management. We need to show the world that we have capable people to say the things that are needed. Because this world is very far from being just and perfect. And we need this strength. So I know that yes, I'm a humble person and I have no authority to say this, but I want to nominate two things that we need to talk to the UN system. First, I would like you to be our goodwill ambassador. Second, I want Bangladesh to be the first international capital of inclusive DRR. We need this to happen because we need symbols. We need to put benchmarks for people to know that this is possible. We are not asking for something impossible. We are asking for something that we can do it, but always if we are together. If we are separate, we are going to fail. Together, we are going to overcome the problem. Third, I want to just express an idea about the technical stuff. We need something like a universal inclusive disaster indicator in order to put this indicator in every measure we are going to take, in every policy, so this way we can check if the things are well done, and we can have the just, we can, I'm forgetting English, excuse me. We have the just measures in order to adapt things to be universal for everyone. Last, the other idea I have apart of always having knowledge is that we need to have something that, well, I'm a dreamer and I want you to follow this dreamer, and if you wish, you support this. I believe that we need to establish education about inclusive disaster risk management. I know you have a program here in Asia, but why not to make it worldwide? Why not to systematize the experience of Bangladesh and to show that we have standards, and those standards can be worldwide. Last, I'm going to finish this because you know that you have those marvelous speakers that would teach you things beyond my own capabilities. But what I want to say is, lastly, we need to just have one word from DHAKA to the world saying that those new standards need to be applied. We have this need of less talk and more action, more people-oriented, human right-based, and I'm going to say this. Thanks for the opportunity of being here. You will always have a friend in Chile and Latin America, and we are going to do it the way you have this incredible freedom war. We are going to have now a war of freedom for people with disabilities. So together we overcome everything. We will win. Thanks. DHAKA declaration is going to be.
Thank you, Carlos, for your amazing comments. First of all, personally, you always have me. I'm not going anywhere. And it is very easy for me to say because actually I admire persons who we call persons with disabilities because you overcome so many challenges. The world is prepared for people like me The world is not prepared for you. So you have to overcome the challenges. So you are more successful than any of us will ever be. So, and you bring some very vital points, highlighting our past, highlighting how much we started thinking of persons with disabilities, of disaster management and planning from the very first and early on in our country. This is one of the few things that we are in Bangladesh, that we are the leaders. And I hope that is something everybody is very conscious of, because compared to many countries, disaster management is well planned, and we are the leaders in that area. Your point for political will is certainly noted. We note the difference that political will has brought, and Bangladesh would be happy to share that experience and take that message and engage more political leaders, because that's really the crux of it, what we need the most. We will work together, and certainly the other points you have brought, the need for universal disaster indicators, worldwide systematization of the experience of Bangladesh, learning from each other, and I hope our minister will and the ministry will help us in doing that. And finally, less talk, more action. So with that, let's move on and start working together. So our next speaker will talk about a little bit more of the international experience, as well as our experience in Bangladesh with a major crisis that we have had. Mr. Khurshid Alam, Assistant Country Director from UNDP.
Thank you, Madam Chair of the session. You are a WHO Goodwill Ambassador. I think nobody needs that introduction, so I'll just keep that if you allow me. And Honorable Cabinet Secretary Mohammad Shafiul Alam, our chief guest today, my fellow panelists, guests from all over the world. Very good afternoon. I don't know what is good afternoon in Bangladesh. Suprabhat? No, Shubho Aparanna, Shabaike. I must start by congratulating Ms. Saima Hussain. I think it is a due. I think we rarely get that opportunity for your conviction and passion to help us understanding that inclusiveness matters. And an inclusive DRR particularly is not just for people with disability, but it's a dividend for all of us. I think that is where the key point is. Today, we're not discussing about the disability, a smaller number. We're talking about 15 to 20% of the world population. And I have a rough calculation, nearly 1 billion people are disabled today. So it's a massive and high policy importance. And that was well recognized in the 2015 agenda, 2030 agenda that was agreed in 2015. The global leaders, they all set out sustainable development goal with high promise that no one will leave behind. The same year, in 2015, the Sendai Declaration that was also signed by all countries, endorsed by all countries, very clearly articulated that disability inclusive disaster risk reduction agenda is a high priority. I think today in Bangladesh, I echo with Carlos, that Bangladesh has become a capital and the provider of knowledge how that can be done. But Bangladesh alone cannot do that. I think this is a wonderful forum where we all can share our lessons in 4 major areas that I have outlined. Before I go into that 4 major areas, I would like to give you a big picture of how disaster is changing globally. I think now we have enough knowledge that frequency and intensity of disaster is increasing. With climate change, with urbanization, with degradation of environment is increasing. There is no doubt, statistically proven. But don't be fooled by the statistics. You'd find in certain years, particularly on the mortality statistics, that mortality is declining. That's a global phenomenon. In most countries where policies are great, investments are made, the mortalities have gone down significantly. However, you'd find a certain year, mortality has suddenly gone up. If you look at the pattern over last 100 years, then you would find mortalities can be, these shoot mortalities can be explained by major disaster like earthquake. That's one area. Second area, many of the countries in the world have moved as a, graduated from lower income country. The asset values have gone up. So economic loss from disasters are going up. And I have a statistics from Munich Re. They are saying that their bill is now $2.19 billion in 2017. The insurance they have paid because of the, importance of, the high value of the assets. Third point in terms of global trend is that the people who are living in the disaster prone area is a very important trend, that people are moving out of poverty, but they are falling back. If you look at the trend of people even in Bangladesh and many other developing countries, that people are moving up from poverty and falling down. What can explain that, the kind of curve? One of the major factors is the disaster, and that is all over the world. That highlights that we need to make sure that the development investment should be disaster proof. The final point I want to make, I did a thorough research yesterday, and I think I'm not a disability expert. I work in disaster and climate change. What is important, I haven't found a good statistics about how people with disability are affected by disaster. Statistically, there is a big data gap. I looked at the earthquake in Iran in 2003, the Bam earthquake. I looked at Haiti earthquake. I've looked at tsunami. There is a missing piece. I think that we need to look at, that how many people who are affected by a particular disaster were disabled. That data is not there. But I have found a data from Japan. For example, in 2011 Great East Japan earthquake, where the mortality among the disabled people were 2 to 4 times higher than the people who were not disabled. That means there is an issue with vulnerability. And now I come to my major framework, the 4 major issues that I want to put forward, and would like Mr. Saima to include in her chair summary. First, often we think that the vulnerabilities are caused by natural factors. But the people with disability or ethnic minority or poor people who are vulnerable are not caused by the natural factor. It is the social injustice. It is how development and society work. So in the context of discussion of disability, it is not the nature, it is not the cyclone, it is not the earthquake, it is not the flood that is making them vulnerable. It is the society, how it is functioning. That's the first point. Second point I would like to highlight, that when we understand that it is the society, then it is not the disaster that should be starting point. It is the development, how we